Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. The Algonquin people have lived and cared for these lands for millennia, and their presence and stewardship continue today. We recognize and honor their enduring connection to this land, its waters, and its communities, and we are grateful for the opportunity to gather here today. With that being said, it's great to be here on such a beautiful day in Ottawa, ahead of one of my favorite times of the year, the AMO conference, where provincial and municipal leaders meet and collaborate on the issues that matter most to our residents. I am George Darouz, the MPP for Carleton, and it's a great pleasure for me to welcome so many of you to the City of Ottawa today and this week, as we continue our partnerships at all levels of government to ensure that residents across Ontario are supported. The theme of the AMO conference perfectly represents the gathering we have today, with federal, provincial, and municipal leaders surrounding me for today's announcement, including the Honourable Todd McCarthy, Ontario's Acting Minister of Infrastructure and Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, MP Jennifer McCarthy, Member of Parliament for Ajax and Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, Robin Jones, President of AMO and Mayor of the Village of Westport, and the Honourable Rob Flack, Ontario's Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. To get things started, I would like to introduce my friend and colleague, the Acting Minister of Infrastructure, the Honourable Todd McCarthy.
Well, good afternoon to all, and thank you, Member of Provincial Parliament Darouz, for that very kind introduction, and for all the hard work that you do for your community and the people of your riding in Carleton. I'm honoured to be here as Ontario's Acting Minister of Infrastructure, while my colleague Minister Surma is on parental leave. Today I am joined by Minister Rob Flack, Parliamentary Secretary Jennifer McKelvey, and AMO President Robin Jones to share some very exciting news. Our government is delivering the most ambitious capital plan in Ontario's history, with $236 billion over the next decade. That's to build highways, transit, hospitals, schools, and housing-enabling infrastructure. As part of this plan, we are making record investments in local infrastructure, including $4 billion through the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, or MHIP for short. This is to help municipalities and First Nations to build the water systems, the roads, and the bridges needed to support growth and to keep people safe and to get shovels in the ground for more homes. Now, even with this historic investment, we know that many municipalities are dealing with repair backlogs, higher construction costs, and limited funding sources for critical infrastructure projects, especially when they do not implement development charges. We've also heard that one of the biggest barriers to supporting new housing development is the cost of building and upgrading essential infrastructure. We have heard our municipal partners loud and clear. And so, I am pleased to announce today that Ontario and Canada are partnering to invest $1 billion to build and expand critical infrastructure in municipalities that do not levy development charges. This is the new non-development charge municipality stream. It includes a $500 million investment through Ontario's MHIP plan and program, and an additional $500 million from Canada's Build Communities Strong Fund. This is to support the construction of new homes and to preserve the province's existing housing supply in municipalities that do not levy development charges. The first intake will open for applications on October the 29th, and projects will be selected in spring 2027. Because we know the demand for funding is significant, We will be announcing additional intakes at a later date. Now, the new non-development charge municipality stream will complement the province's development charge reduction program, which delivers funding for housing-enabling infrastructure projects in those municipalities that reduce and maintain reductions in development charges, as well as our expanded HST relief on new homes. Together, these measures can save some homeowners up to $200,000. Today's announcement builds on the $3 billion that our government has already awarded through MHIP to support critical infrastructure projects that will enable the construction of approximately 800,000 new homes and maintain water systems for 375,000 existing homes across the province. To date, over 300 projects in more than 230 municipalities and First Nations communities have benefited from this funding. These investments underscore our government's dedication to addressing housing challenges and ensuring growth in our communities can be sustained. I thank Minister Gregor Robertson, Parliamentary Secretary McCarthy, and the federal government for their partnership with us in supporting growth and strengthening local economies and municipalities across Ontario. As we continue to navigate economic uncertainty and unwarranted U.S. tariffs, the need for all levels of government to work together has never been more important. By working together, we are building the infrastructure that drives growth, creates jobs, and strengthens our communities. I thank you for your kind attention, and now I'll invite Parliamentary Secretary McCarthy to say a few words.
Well, hello, bonjour. It's a pleasure to join you here this afternoon alongside Minister McCarthy and Minister Flack, as well as AMO President Robin Jones, and so many members of the AMO board who are working so very hard to serve their municipalities and serve their province. I would like to start by acknowledging that this region is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, and specifically the Kainai-Gegaha peoples. Pour suivre le rythme de la croissance démographique, les collectivités de tout le Canada sont confrontées à une hausse de coûts liée à l'amélioration et à l'expansion des infrastructures essentielles. De nombreuses municipalités doivent composer avec des coûts de construction élevés, des actifs vieillissants et d'importants retards dans la mise en place des infrastructures. Chaque municipalité est unique par les besoins de sa population, le type d'infrastructure dont elle a besoin et les défis auxquels elle est confrontée pour mener à bien ses projets clés. Aujourd'hui, le gouvernement du Canada et le gouvernement de l'Ontario unissent leurs efforts pour veiller à ce que les municipalités disposent des ressources nécessaires pour mettre en place les infrastructures dont les Canadiens ont besoin. The federal government is supporting the launch of the Non-Development Charge Municipality Stream, part of Ontario's Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, with federal funding to be provided by the Build Community Strong Fund. This initiative will provide up to $1 billion in combined federal and provincial funding, specifically to help municipalities that do not levy development charges so that they can build more homes. It will help eligible municipalities build and renew critical infrastructure that enables new housing and protects the existing housing supply. This includes investing in increased access to potable water, treatment, and management of wastewater and stormwater, as well as improved capacity and reliability of roads and bridges. These projects can include new construction, rehabilitation, including reconstruction and expansion of this critical infrastructure. Municipalities can apply through the Province of Ontario's online funding portal starting October 29th. Program guidelines are now available online, and this is where you'll find more information on program eligibility and required supporting documentation. Pour bâtir un Canada fort, il faut commencer par bâtir des collectivités fortes. C'est pourquoi le gouvernement fédéral, le gouvernement de l'Ontario et les partenaires du secteur de logement réalisent des investissements générationnels dans les infrastructures. Annoncé dans le budget de 2025 et lancé en avril 2026, les fonds pour bâtir des collectivités fortes permettra de mettre en place les infrastructures dont les Canadiens dépendent au quotidien. Il accélérera la construction d'hôpitaux, de centres récréatifs, ponts facilitant le transport de nos marchandises, ainsi que de réseaux d'approvisionnement en eau, de traitement des eaux usées et de transport en commun qui garantissent le bon fonctionnement de nos villes et de nos villages. Le Fonds pour bâtir des collectivités fortes fournira 52 milliards de dollars de financement sur 10 ans, puis 3 milliards après les 10 ans de les fonds initiaux. Ce financement soutient la construction et la rénovation d'infrastructures publiques liées à la prospérité économique, au logement, au sport, à l'éducation et à la santé, au transport en commun aussi, et à l'adaptation au changement climatique. We have also taken steps to reduce building costs and increase the pace of construction of new homes through the Canada-Ontario Partnership to Build. As part of this partnership, the Development Charge Reduction Program will deliver combined federal and provincial funding of $8.8 billion over 10 years for housing-enabling infrastructure projects. Funding will be prioritized for municipalities that reduce development charges for all residential types by 30% to 50% or greater and maintain those reductions for at least 3 years. The non-development charge municipality stream will help to complement this work and ensure that every municipality in Ontario can benefit from the Canada-Ontario Partnership to Build. Nous avons réalisé d'importants progrès en mobilisant tous les ordres du gouvernement et en investissant dans les projets clés dans tout l'Ontario. Nous nous efforçons de maintenir les services dont les Canadiens dépendent au quotidien et d'aider les collectivités à grandir de la façon qui convient le mieux à leurs résidents. Renforcer les infrastructures locales permet de veiller à ce que les Canadiens restent reliés à leur quartier, à leur emploi, à leur entreprise. Soutenir le développement de collectivités fortes est essentiel à la croissance économique du Canada. En investissant en les infrastructures, nous bâtissons un avenir meilleur et plus prometteur pour les Canadiens. Working together, we can build Canada strong. Thank you, and it is my real pleasure to invite to the podium President Robin Jones of AMO. I was very, very fortunate to be able to work with her in a very short period of time as an AMO board member, and certainly have a lot of respect for her strong leadership.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. So good afternoon, bonjour. I am joined by my fellow municipal sector associations standing behind the speakers. There are acronyms for brevity. We have ROMA, rural, NOMA, northern, PHENOM, Northern East, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, and OSUM, which is the small urban municipalities. Also in the room, thank you to so many members of the AMO board, other people in the building. I think we drew everybody, all the municipal politicians and staff in for this amazing announcement that we are so happy for. So on that, I'd like to thank MPP DeRose, Minister McCarthy, Minister Flack, of course, Parliamentary Secretary McKelvey, and to the federal and provincial governments for this significant investment in infrastructure across Ontario. Especially as we kick off the AMO conference today, 126 years of holding conferences with over 3,000 delegates and 750 delegation meetings that Minister Flack says he has the majority of. Meetings between municipalities and province is such an important announcement. Now, you know that infrastructure isn't just about roads, pipes, and concrete. It's about Ontarians and the communities that we want to build with them. It's the roads that get us to work and to school. It's the water and wastewater systems that keep our communities safe and healthy. It's the transit that connects people to jobs and medical appointments. And it's what makes it possible to build new homes, welcome new families, and grow new businesses. But across Ontario, municipalities are facing a dual challenge: renewing aging infrastructure while also building for growth. Our communities have big plans. We dream big. And we all want to have more homes, to build more homes, attract investment, and create new opportunities. But we need the infrastructure in place to make that growth possible. For municipalities that do not levy development charges, which are often the small, rural, and northern municipalities, those challenges can be even greater because they don't collect from that revenue tool. Vast geographies, aging assets, significant infrastructure backlogs, and smaller populations and therefore smaller property bases, while there are fewer taxpayers to share the cost. That's why we are particularly pleased to see governments create dedicated funding for these communities. This investment will help municipalities make the infrastructure investments their communities need today, while preparing for the opportunities ahead. Municipalities have long called for infrastructure funding that is long-term, substantial, and predictable. And today's announcement is an important step in responding to the funding demands our municipalities are facing, and is a meaningful example of governments listening to municipalities and recognizing that one size does not fit all. This shows that governments are listening. They are making investments in local communities, big and small, to enable growth and prosperity. AMO has been advocating for this kind of investment because we know municipalities can't meet the infrastructure challenge alone. We appreciate the federal and provincial governments recognizing the need and creating a dedicated approach for rural, small, and northern communities that do not levy development charges that are facing these unique pressures. There is more work to do, but today is an outstanding step forward. We, AMO, will continue to work with both governments to make sure municipalities have the tools and investments that they need to grow, to renew, and to build strong communities across Ontario. So thank you, merci, miigwech, and I now have the pleasure of introducing Minister Flack to the podium.
Well, thank you, President Jones. It is great to be here, indeed. I guess we don't have them on the teleprompter. That's why you bring paper up. All good. Great to be here. Great to see so many familiar faces outside the camera view. I think, as you said, Robin, the AMO board is here, and we saw them for lunch briefly, and great to see you there, and thank you for your support. And it's great to be here with George Derouz, great MP for Carleton and a big advocate for Ottawa. You know, we were back here I think it was the 1st of June, when we announced the development charge reduction program. Again, that huge funding stream that we're just getting settled right now with all our municipal friends, getting the I's dotted and the T's crossed, so that's going well. But it's great to be back again a couple of months later in the nation's capital to announce this funding stream. When we made the DCRP announcement, we made a commitment that the non-DC levying communities would not be left behind. And they'd be able to benefit from this funding stream. And so, as I like to say, today we have delivered on that commitment, thanks to Minister McCarthy and our entire government, the federal government as well, Minister Gregor Robertson and Parliamentary Secretary McCarthy. So, as they say, a promise made and a promise delivered. So well done. And we know that building homes does not happen in isolation. And as President Jones said, infrastructure has been a massive constraint in our province, has been a massive constraint in your communities in particular, because you really can't build anything unless you have good infrastructure. And again, Robin said it best, It's not only the new infrastructure for new growth that matters, it's replacing the aging infrastructure that's aged out. It is just an insatiable need right across this province, especially when it comes to creating the homes that we need throughout the province in the communities you represent. For many, home ownership is still, and you've heard me say, and Christina's heard me say it 100 times, it still is the quintessential Canadian dream. It's where people can establish their roots and can raise their families. It's also a safe haven. In this country, you can build equity in your home and not have to pay taxes. Keep it out of the reach of governments because they like to take your money. Premier Ford says it all the time. So for far too many, this dream of home ownership has become unaffordable. It's become unattainable. And again, I've said it again and again and again, in this province, it takes too long and it costs too much to build homes. We're changing that. We've changed it. Bill 17, Bill 60, and Bill 98 were good steps in the right direction. But we continue to make historic investments in infrastructure, like the ones here today. So, as Jennifer said, we signed the Canada-Ontario Partnership to build, which enabled the HST rebate to take place, development charge reduction programs, and today's announcement as well. And you might ask, how are we doing with the HST rebate? We've got good news. This has worked, folks. It really has worked. And with these DC applications that are going to come our way and the $8.8 billion that's going to be distributed in a great way based on your applications, we're going to see the needle move even more. 130% increase year over year, second quarter, 26 versus 25, has seen new housing starts, new housing sales. It's happening. It's working. Older inventories coming out and being sold. Shovels are in the ground building more homes. The program's working. And I believe the DCRP and this funding stream for the non-DC levying municipalities is going to also add to that momentum. So before we turn it over to the media, I just want to say again, thank you for coming out. I want to recognize some people. Roma Chair, obviously, Krista Lowry is here. Dave Plord, FONOM President. Brooke Dumas, NOMA President. Bonnie Clark, Eastern Ontario Wardens Chair, is here. Marcus Ryan, my neighbour down the road, the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus Chair, is here. Jamie McGarvey is here, OSOM Chair, and Christina Giannoni from OHBA, Ontario Home Builders Association. So again, these programs just didn't happen. Their advocacy and the municipalities in the room, we're going to sit down with 750 different delegations. It proves that we're listening, we're learning, and we'll continue to work together to get the job done. With that, I'll turn it over to Daniel Strauss for any media questions.
This will now begin the media Q&A portion. The format is one question, one follow-up, accredited media only. Thank you.
Hello, Minister. Barbara with iPolitics. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Minister, are you still committed to that goal of 1.5 million houses by 2031?
I'll say the same thing I've been saying for a year and a half. My focus continues to be kickstarting a sluggish, almost morbidly dead housing industry in Ontario. So our focus has been to get the HST rebate in place. Our focus has been to introduce the development charge reduction program, and now this funding stream for non-DC, the small, rural, and northern folks, along with the legislation. And I think you're seeing it work. We are committed to seeing step-by-step progress, so stay tuned. It's a long few years ahead, and I think we've got a good momentum going.
And after putting in place the HST rebate, you're seeing some results. Do you feel like it got to the point where you have done everything you could to boost housing construction? Is there anything else you can do to make things better?
Well, I think that's why we're here. This is the AMO conference, and we're going to sit down and continue to listen and learn. If there's other ideas, things we can do to help get more shovels in the ground faster, we'll do it. So are we done? Absolutely not.
Did you hear anything interesting in the conference today? Anyone brought you any ideas that you thought were worth
To be blunt, this is my first meeting in the conference, other than when I met with the AMO board, but I think I start today at 3, and I'll come up for air on Wednesday around noon.
Thank you.
Hi, Minister Flack. Josh Moreno with CTV Ottawa. Talking a lot today about upgrading infrastructure and old infrastructure needing upgrades as well. Here in Ottawa, the residents have seen 3 separate storms flood out nearly 6,000 basements in the span of 6 weeks. I'm just wondering, having raised a different infrastructure challenge, do governments now need to put some kind of focus on upgrading infrastructure to withstand increasingly severe weather?
Well, if you take a look at the unprecedented forest fires and flooding, and I see Mayor Jones at the back there from South Wald, from my own riding, who had a severe storm a week ago. It's been a really, really tough summer on a lot of people, municipalities, but people in their homes. We've got programs in place, but obviously I know I'll be sitting down with Minister McCarthy and our team. We're always open to willing, again, to listen and learn. We've got good programs in place, but the first thing I always say to individuals, when you have flooding, phone your private insurance. Government is not the insurance company. Private insurance is. So, but if there's other things we can do to complement, we'll work with AMO, President Jones, Lindsay Jones. I'm sure if they've got good ideas, trust me, they're not shy about telling me what we think we should do.
Wonderful. And my next question is for McKelvey. Ottawa already says it needs long-term investment in stormwater and climate-resilient infrastructure. What specifically is the federal government prepared to contribute to help the city make those upgrades before the next major storm?
So we've launched the Build Community Strong Fund, which across Canada is $51 billion over 10 years and $3 billion before that. That is open for municipalities to put applications in through the 3 tiers. One tier is the provincial cost matched, which we spoke about today, and there is some eligibility around stormwater and some of those components. We also have a direct delivery stream where we work directly with municipalities, and of course there's the community stream, which is entirely directed by municipalities, and they have the ability to direct that where it's needed. So we have different options that are available. We recognize that from coast to coast to coast, municipalities are very unique. They have different challenges, and we wanted to provide the maximum flexibility so that they could identify their priorities and work towards solutions that work for them.
Thank you very much. If there are any further questions, please come up to the microphone.
Hi, I'm Nathan of CBC Ottawa. I'm just, if you can clarify, so there was the previous development charge reduction program of $8.8 billion. How is this? Is this part of that stream, or like how is this separate from it? Is this a new $1 billion? Just if you can clarify that.
Yeah, this is separate over and above that. So this is a new agreement reached by the federal government and our Ontario government in the past week. This means matching funding for $1 billion. For the provincial side of it is a continuation and completion of the MHIP, Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, and for the federal side, it's a continuation of the Building Community Strong Fund. But it is a new stream of funding totaling $1 billion, and that is specifically for those municipalities that do not charge levy development charges. That's important, that do not levy development charges. The other was an encouragement, the one immediately preceding this, the development charge reduction program that Minister Flack announced was specifically to do with those municipalities that have development charges and are being encouraged to reduce them in order to get funding.
And one quick follow-up maybe is, in that previous announcement, I believe municipalities were expected to, fork over 10% of the cost of infrastructure to get the 90 in funding. Is that expectation still carried over with this new stream? I guess, in other words, are municipalities expected to pay part of the infrastructure cost in order to be eligible for this new $1 billion?
So I'll let Todd answer, but I would say no. So with the DC reduction program, there was criteria, had to put some skin in the game, 10%, lower your DCs a minimum of 30 to 50 or more, some have. We've had a lot of great applications. They're being dealt with right now, a lot of due diligence, but again, as Minister McCarthy said, a separate stream, application-based after October, call it November 1st or late October, I believe. So again, unique for our non-DC levying municipalities. And I also want to say, and I'll say it again on Tuesday, These are great programs, and AMO's advocated, everyone's advocated. But folks, we have an insatiable need of over $200 billion over the next 10 to 15 years. And there just isn't enough money in the tax coffers, municipally, provincially, or federally, to fund it all. I'm going to throw it out again. Publicly owned municipal service corporations, water utilities is a way we're going to fund the billions and billions we need to do in this province. But in the short term, we're going to support our municipal partners through these programs, federal government, provincial government, working together with our municipal partners. The program's going to work.
Thanks. Any further questions? As I see none, we now conclude our media Q&A session.